Hey everybody, we're doing the next section of A Game of Thrones, which is Tyrion's second chapter, Catelyn's third chapter, and Sansa's first chapter. Okay, so we're starting off with Tyrion, whom I love. He's just so, Okay, so we've now left Winterfell. The King's Guard has gone south, and Tyrion, Jon Snow, and Benjen are going north, along with the Ghost. Again, Grimm has this way of describing scenery, and what is that? Has a way of describing scenery without making you bored. I don't know how he manages to do that, but it's just enough to make you feel everything and you're wrapped up in it, and then you're like, okay, but then the story continues. It's fantastic. So they're going north, the mountains are to the west, land and woods to the east. Tyrion is a little off put by Ghost, who's quiet. I like how he put in that you could hear wolves in the wolves forest or whatever howling in the night, but Ghost never responded. He's so smart. He's a good boy, because he knows if he responds, they're gonna come looking for him, and they don't want no trouble. He doesn't want trouble for Jon. Ghost is smart. We see Jon getting the realization of what the Night's Watch is. This is before he has a conversation with Tyrion, of course, but he sees Yoren and the two rapers, and they're all gross with lice in their hair. Like, it's so gross. And they're smelly, they barely wash their clothes, and he's like, to him, the Night's Watch was, one, an escape from Catelyn and Winterfell, and two, it was a noble calling. And here he sees these three men who are obviously sent there against their will, and they're just gross. And so he's kind of getting the first impression of like, oh damn. They're all not like Uncle Benjen, like it's true. You know, he knew it, but he probably chose to ignore that part, thinking that most of the men would be like him. So they're riding and riding and riding, and then it comes to the part where it says on the 18th night of their journey, I'm like, oh my gosh, I would die. There's no way. And it's cold? No. Actually, if I could wear, well, there's no cute clothes. Never mind. And they're probably not going very fast too, because they have so many people on the horses and things they're carrying, you know, food and all that. But still, 18 days? No. We get into their camp for the night. Tyrion, of course, is no help because he has little legs and arms and he can't really help. So he takes his book and he goes off to read. We learn about Dragonbone being good for crossbows. He begins talking about when he first went to King's Landing, how he saw all the dragons, how beautiful they were, how he used to spend time down there walking through the dragon bones and all that stuff. And then he gets into the story of the Field of Fire with King Loren and the Targaryens. And then I thought it was funny how I did this, because so we have like two and a half pages of straight exposition of just Grimm like describing the scenery, and Tyrion talking about going to King's Landing, and then he's giving this story about the Targaryen sisters and the Field of Fire, and you get wrapped up in it. And then the next line, why do you read so much? And you're like, oh shit. So you're kind of in this moment just like Tyrion is, where he's reading this book and he's all engrossed in it and this story, and then snap back out of it with dialogue because Jon is standing next to you. Brilliant. Brilliant. Tyrion talks to him. He explains why he's reading the book, because he needs to keep his mind sharp. And Tyrion's looking at Jon and saying he's all Stark, and how his mother must have left nothing on him because he was all Stark. Little doth he know, his mother was Stark. She left all of herself on him. They're going back and forth and talking, and again, Tyrion begins to talk about the Night's Watch and the type of men that's going to be there, and how Jon probably is having his realization and not liking it. They get into an argument. Tyrion goes to kind of comfort him, give him a little pat on the back, and Ghost comes from out of nowhere like a beast and is like, "Whoa up, brother." I don't know why I laughed so hard at that part. Ghost was like somewhere like lurking in the trees, probably just watching him, waiting for a chance to jump on Tyrion. You know he was anyway, because I mean, if Tyrion's little and Ghost is this big huge direwolf, he was the largest of all the other direwolves, and Tyrion's little, you know he's kind of questioning whether or not he's food anyway. I know my dog does that. You know what I mean? If he probably sees anything, I mean, he's probably trying to figure out if Tyrion is a kid or not. Like, what? Because I mean, he is deformed a little bit, so he's probably like, you know, I could eat you. He's like, make the wrong move and let Jon give me the word. I will totally eat you. I just thought it was funny. And then Jon makes him ask nicely for for the wolf to back off, and it was a nice little moment. He called him, he probably thought he was a grumpkin. That was funny. And then they make their way back to camp. Oh yeah, and then their argument was, Tyrion said, you know, like when I was younger, I used to dream of my father burning in those flames and my sister, and you can't tell me as a bastard you've never had that experience. And Jon's like, no, I haven't. He gets all upset, whatever. And then as they go back to camp, they have their food, whatever, and everyone starts to leave, and then he sees Jon staring into the fire, and you know he's thinking about Catelyn. Robb and him are brothers. They have always gotten, you know, they've gotten along. Everyone except Sansa. So you know he's thinking about Catelyn. I mean, really. He smiled, but in a sad way, because he knew what he was thinking. That's sad. Okay, so then we have Catelyn's chapter. Ned and the girls are gone, and she's, you know, by Bran's bed day and night, night and day, barely eating, just sitting there waiting, and she's driving herself freaking crazy is what she's doing. That's not healthy. Even if you want to be there 24 hours, even like if you're in a hospital, nurses tell you, you have to get out of here so we can change some sheets. Like, you can't just stay here. She's being difficult. Mace Lewin is trying to tell her, like, we have stuff to do. Even if Bran were okay, Ned and half your house just left. Like, he took people with himself. Like, there's things that needs to be, like, that would be hard for her if her son were well. Her son's sick. She's there not doing anything. And poor Robb, who's a 14-year-old, has to do all this himself. Girl, he stepped up and everything, but it bothered me, like, a couple of paragraphs down that she's like, he's like, you haven't moved. You didn't even say goodbye to Dad and the girls when they left. Again, is Bran her favorite? Because your girls are going south. Your daughters. Sansa. Arya might be wild, but Sansa, I'm getting a sense, is a lot like her. So, you telling me that you didn't even see your daughters off? Like, you just waved to them from the window? You said goodbye to them and then waved to them from the window. Your daughters are going south. Bran is her favorite. I don't care what y'all say. Poor Robb is having a hard time controlling things himself because she's not helping. He doesn't really know what to do. He isn't prepared for all this yet. He's trying to convince her that she needs rest and food and she can leave for a while. He goes to open the window so Bran can hear the horses. He can hear the wolves singing or whatever, and she goes fucking batshit crazy. And he's like, I'll close them if you get some sleep. And it's just a whole big old mess. This woman is a big old mess. They're listening to the wolves, and then Robb notices that the dogs are beginning to bark as well, and that's unusual. And then he looks over and sees that there's a fire in the library, and to that I say, asshole. Who lights fire to books? Like, that bothers me. That makes me think of the book that Tyrion was talking about in his, like, chapter before, where he said to the either to the maester or whoever was there, like, this is the only full copy of this manuscript I've seen. I've only, like, there are only bits and pieces other places. This is the only full copy he's seen is here at Winterfell, and now there's a fire in the library. So mad. So Robb runs off to go tend to the fire. Catelyn's there. She turns around. There's a guy with blonde hair, weirdo, standing there with a knife, and they fight just like in the show. She grabs a blade, pushes it down, they tumble, and then Bran's wolf comes in and, like, saves the day and goes over to her and licks her hands, licks all the blood off her hands, and then goes and lays on the bed. Good boy. Good boy. If she had any doubts about that damn wolf, they're gone now. And then she starts to laugh hysterically, which is funny. All that stress, she must have just been like, all that stress, and then this intense fight or whatever that she just had for her life and for her son's life, you know, it just came out in this crazy laugh. Poor thing. Everyone cleans her up. She goes to bed for 4 days. Wakes up, asks who the guy was. They say they don't know her. They say Hodor had been acting weird. Now they know why. He was probably saying in the horses, the stables. I couldn't think of the word. And she tells them that he was after Bran. They're all shocked. They probably thought that he was after her, given that they fought. Minister says that the dagger that the guy had was Valyrian steel. It's expensive. He probably wouldn't be able to afford that, so they can only guess it's probably one of the Lannisters. We, of course, know that Baelish sent that. So here's the question. So did Baelish plant that guy with that dagger ahead of time, knowing something was going to happen, like at some opportunity, take the opportunity to try to kill somebody? Or did he just send them like there just in case, and then like maybe they were sending ravens or something back and forth to each other, and then Baelish found out about Bran, so then he told him to kill Bran? Or but if they had done that with ravens going back and forth, the maester would have known about it. Somebody would have known about it, right? So how did he didn't know that Bran was going to be pushed out of a window and like all twisted up? So how did he plant this guy ahead of time with the knife without knowing that was going to happen? Or was he hoping something else was going to happen? Like the guy, like did he have orders for that guy to do something else? You know what I mean? Because the guy's like, you're not supposed to be here. So, you know what I mean? So, what was that guy there for? Was he just there to spy? How was he getting messages back and forth to Baelish to know about Bran then? Just explain to me the correspondence. Because, obviously, so he had to have given that knife to that guy ahead of time. Was it a just-in-case knife? Like, I like the joke that Catelyn made. Like, you can tell she's feeling a little bit better and resolute in her decision or whatever. That she says, she asked about the knife. She's like, well, I don't know where it came from, but I can attest to how sharp the blade is. Like, I actually laughed. She made a joke. Good for her. Catelyn tells the other people leave the room. She lets the important people know that she thinks someone tried to kill Bran. Rob pulls out his sword. He's like, I'll kill him all. Like, dude, put it away. Okay? Chill. You just got it. I had two parts in this chapter where I laughed. It was enjoyable. She decides that she's going to go to King's Landing and leave Bran. And Rob's like, huh? Yeah, and we're all like, what? Like, you were so adamant on staying there and now you're going to leave. Okay, whatever. Like, nothing she does ever makes any sense to me anyway, so whatever. And so Roderick is going with her. Yeah, we're all confused, dude. And Sansa's boring and Joffrey's an ass. We pretty much know it. That kind of sums up the whole chapter. Arya's brushing Nymeria. Sansa's trying to get her to come and act like a lady and come ride with the queen. Arya's like, no, she doesn't like the queen or Marcella, Marcella water, that's what I was thinking of. She doesn't want to because it's boring. And Sansa's there, like, Sansa makes everything horrible. Like, this chapter is very short, actually. It's one of the longest we've read so far, but like, Sansa's just whatever. We meet Sir Barristan in this chapter, and it makes me sad because Bran was so looking forward to meeting him, and so this is the moment where you realize, like, oh, Bran isn't there to meet him. Ugh, it sucks. And we meet the Hound and Sir Ilan Payne, right? I'd be gruff too if someone cut my tongue out. Like, you can't blame him for being kind of gruff and mean looking. I'd walk around with a scowl as well. And we also, Renly is also there with his handsome self. Joffrey and Sansa go right off and they have lunch and it's all pleasant, and then he turns into an asshole. Whatever. Nobody cares. Like, was he just embarrassed that she saw him like all week? That's it? That was enough to make him turn on her. Like, so stupid. So incredibly stupid. We did learn that they were stopped at the place where Robert killed Rhaegar, so that's something. Okay, so for the next one, we'll have Eddard 3, Bran 3, and Catelyn 4. I know these are, I missed a lot last week. I kind of broke my foot, and I'm very upset about it, so I was like kind of on pain pills and sleeping for the last 4 days. So I'm sorry about that, but you're going to have a video, one of these every day this week to kind of catch back up. And pretty soon we're going to have to decide what the next book is going to be. We're going to take a little break in between the Game of Thrones ones. I was thinking of doing Jimmy's book. If no one's opposed to it, I'll pick out a couple and we'll have a poll in the next video. And you can vote on what you want the next book to be before we get into the next edition of these. Alright? So that's it. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.